Perfect. Cool. Awesome.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Welcome, everyone.
I'm trying that thing.
Happy World Teachers Day.
It is World Teachers Day. We made it.
It's Monday.
It is Monday.
Even though it feels like
Friday.
Yeah.
It's okay, though.
Yeah.
I hope everyone had a good weekend and day, because today's Monday.
If you would like to engage with us in the chat, go ahead and type in your name, where you are from generally, and with what subject or grade level you work with. And you've got the chat.
Yes, ma'am. We have an Ann Arbor, Science 8. Buffalo, New York. I was born in Buffalo, an elementary sub.
Just to alleviate any confusion, Anna and I are roommates, so this is why we're together in the same space.
And we'll talk about that later on.
Yep. Oh, New Mexico.
Construction technology.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
Social studies. We've got 2nd grade.
Stefan is here.
Yay, Stefan. And that's music. Ooh, fun. El Paso. I lived in Austin for a while. That's not close to El Paso. But I see Texas and I'm like, I love Texas.
You can see on the screen as you're coming in, there are multiple modes of multiple modes of how you can get this presentation. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the different screenshots that we're using, there's some useful sticker packs in there for you to use in your own slides. There's also a PDF, and if you'd like to look at the website.
Ooh,
try to cover all the bases. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we have some Port Huron people. Psychology.
Ooh, Alabama. My parents live in Alabama.
Yeah. Someone's from Evanston.
That's Eric.
Oh, I was like, Eric, there's someone here from Evanston.
Alrighty.
Where in Alabama, Chris says?
My parents live in Auburn. Yep.
Chris is from Tennessee. Is that right? I could be wrong. I might just be making things up.
Yep, Tennessee, he says.
Oh, cool. Cool. Awesome. Do we have any Project Lead the Way teachers out there? Probably not. Oops.
We have Montana, someone from Columbus, Ohio. Welcome. There is a load of U of M alumni here. We're all, and lots of us from Ann Arbor. No hard feelings, though.
Oh, Columbus.
It's just always something to mention.
Yeah.
We love the Big Ten.
There I am.
Go Bucks. Love it. Alrighty, Montana, more Alabama, Northern Virginia. Nice.
Cool.
So welcome. I hope you're coming here in a good mind space. Admittedly, I'm very tired, but I'm very excited to be sharing this work with you all. We'll be talking a lot about some of the really, really small details that we all love. And Ellen's with us. Hi, Ellen.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
So good. Sorry, I had some connection problems.
It's okay. Welcome. Let's see. Where are all our lovely people from? Someone's from Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, my sister works there.
Oh, nice.
Very close. Or Northern Virginia.
Ooh, we got all grade ranges too.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Maybe some post-secondary folks. I don't know if we'll have any. If you are, shout out to you. It's a wild time to be in post-secondary.
Cool.
Alrighty. So it is 7 o'clock, and we'll let.
So, yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Andrea Prejean, the Director of Teacher Quality, and I'm looking for myself because I can do this better if I can actually see myself talking. I found myself. But I'm the Director of Teacher Quality for the NEA in Washington, D.C. And before we get started and I turn it over to our hosts, I want to just take care of a few housekeeping items. So one, we are recording this so that everyone can have access to it later on this week. And there are two ways you can access it. You can access it on NEA's YouTube channel. So if you just go to youtube.com and type in National Education Association, this will pop up along with a whole host of other webinars that you might be interested in. And if you want a certificate to go along with the time you're spending tonight, you should go to nea.org/webinars, and on that page you will get directions on how to go to our LMS and download a certificate with your name. We'd ask you to give us a couple of days after this record and we get it uploaded. So if you check on Thursday, everything should be ready. And I will remember to say all of this at the end. And so I'm going to turn it over right now to Eric Brown, who is a biology teacher from Illinois, and he is also on the executive committee. So Eric?
Thank you, Andrea. Well, let me start by saying the National Education Association is committed to honoring the spaces that we occupy to advance our work. So I'm going to begin by acknowledging that we meet on traditional lands. And specifically, I'm here in Chicago, and it's located on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. This region has long been a center for indigenous people to gather, trade, and maintain kinship ties, and the largest urban American indigenous community in the United States actually resides here in Chicago. So we honor America's first people and all elders, past, present, and emerging. And I call upon all of you to learn and share what you learn about their tribal history, their culture, and their contributions, which have been suppressed in the telling of the story that is America. Now, today's webinar is one way that the National Education Association is supporting us in our professional work right now. As you know, when sharing a tool, it can and will look different depending on the grade level you work with, the subject matter you teach, and the students you have that year, or from class period to class period. Now, as a science teacher, I impress upon my students that no one has all the right answers. However, it is in the search for answers that we set ourselves apart. Our colleagues today will not say they have all the answers. However, in their search for how to do distance learning best for their classes and students, they do have some best practices to share. And for even more tools, resources, and best practices beyond today's webinar, please check out educatingthroughcrisis.org. That's all one big word, educatingthroughcrisis.org. Our members are experts, and all of the distance learning webinars on educatingthroughcrisis.org are led by experienced EdTech members and staff. Today, we are joined by NEA members Ana Gonzalez and Veronica Che for a session entitled Leveling Up with Schoology. Or is it Schoology?
Schoology.
Schoology. Actually, you're right. I know it's not Schoology because there are only two O's. It's Schoology. Because as a biology teacher, I know it is not zoology, in spite of everyone saying that. It's zoology.
Oh, I learned
I did not know that.
But I digress. The session, Leveling Up with Schoology, is a direct result of member attendees from our August webinar series asking for a deeper training on this platform. And it's very important to know that the NEA is not endorsing a particular product or platform. Instead, these webinars are our members talking about the tools and platforms that have been working for them in these virtual learning spaces. So please stick around to the end so that we can hear from you, because we're going to be sharing a short evaluation form at the close of the session to help identify other topics that might be of interest to you. Thanks again for joining us this evening. And now for our expert member facilitators, Ana Gonzalez and Veronica Che. Help us in leveling up with Schoology.
Thank you so much. So just to go over a few webinar procedures. There are many participants here, so this is a webinar format, so we will not be able to see you or hear you. Please post your questions in the Q&A box. You'll see that at the bottom on your Zoom menu. The chat feature you can use to make comments or share ideas, make that be a collaborative space. And when you ask questions, try to be concise. If you would like to refer to a specific slide, that would be helpful for our panelists. And we want to be able to answer as many of your questions as we can, and we will share our email addresses very shortly so that we can respond. And we will, our panelists will be answering questions in the Q&A box as well as replying to comments in the chat. So without further ado, hi, I'm Veronica Che. My contact information is there. I am currently a middle school math and science teacher, but most of my experience has been teaching high school chemistry. I am an assistant coach for a volleyball team, and I also work with an after-school program.
Cool. I'm Anna Gonzalez. I am a project Lead the Way teacher in a school in Ann Arbor. I've been there, I think this is now my 4th year going into it. It feels like forever, but I love it. I love middle school engineering. And I also coach. I coach cross country. I coach volleyball. I coach this little race car thing. I don't remember what it's called. And you might notice that we're in the same space, and that's because we're roommates. We met at the University of Michigan during our grad program. We actually met on the 2nd day of school, and we've been friends ever since. So here we are.
Yep, we are live-in consultants for each other. It's pretty great. Alrighty, so our learning target for today, we're all here so we can learn about Schoology and make it useful for distance learning. So quickly, here is our agenda. We are going through, there's a lot of stuff in this slide, on these slides, and so we'll probably go very, very quickly, but the slides are set up so that they are easy to follow without us speaking. So there's a lot of resources in there and a lot of screenshots. There's some hidden slides in your copy of the slides, so you can look through those and enjoy those hidden gems.
So don't let the number of slides intimidate you. They go pretty quickly, and a lot are hidden, like what Veronica just said.
All right, so first off, here is our friend Piper. You want to introduce Piper?
Yeah. Piper is our best friend. Piper has accompanied us on all of our webinars that we have hosted. And Piper lets us know when there is a teacher move somewhere on the screen. So you might see Piper in the bottom corner, you might see Piper in the top corner, but anytime that you see Piper, there's a very specific teacher move that we are trying to model. So anything else?
No, that's it. Cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started by building some prior knowledge. So we are going to drop a link in the chat. This is for a Mentimeter. Now, what this is a place to have a virtual, a virtual word cloud, and we can project that in just a moment. So let's click on this thing. And so the question that you're answering is, what components of your physical classroom would you like to reimagine for a virtual space? Also, if you are familiar with Schoology, what are some things that you'd like to consider when optimizing that for distance learning as opposed to when we learn inside the classroom? So I'll go ahead and share this with you. And so you'll see in just a moment that this will auto refresh itself, and so you can see the different things that you are putting into the Menti. You can use this with your students. It's a good way to create some pretty word clouds and also just get everybody's ideas into one place. The most commonly used or submitted words will be at the center and stay the largest. So we'll give this a moment to load and for you to add to it.
Yeah. So
if you do not,
and collaboration.
Yeah. Sorry. Just in the chat, if you do not know what Schoology is, we are hoping that this will teach you more about this specific LMS, and it is a broad range of very basic to some more intermediate level things.
Cool. So we're seeing a lot about collaboration, group work, labs. Hey,
Yes.
science.
We can talk about that one.
Yeah, it'll be great. Discussions I see a lot of. So we're seeing a lot of things that we will definitely talk about and address throughout this presentation.
All right, so you can continue to add to this if you would like. We will drop the screenshot of this in the slides after it is done populating. Alrighty, let's move on. So we're gonna move on to some definitions here. So when we talk about specific things, when we talk about class, we are talking specifically about the live instruction that happens over some kind of video conferencing software. The course page is your Schoology course page, specifically where you will share resources and materials with students.
The sandbox is kind of where you get to learn the LMS and where you test things out, play around. It is a mock course page for you. I have one for every single class that I created. And it's super helpful to learn the LMS and to apply things. LMS meaning the learning management system. So Google Classroom is an LMS, Schoology is an LMS.
Canvas.
Yeah. It was like I ran out.
Seesaw. These things, yes. All right, breadcrumbs are, if you think of Hansel and Gretel, like the trail of where you've been before so that you can get back to where you were. This is very helpful for students and for educators. The user experience is very, very important. We want to make sure that when we are, when we are presenting distance learning to our students, that we keep our students' user experience in mind. And then
embedding. Embedding is to integrate various media and apps into one place. So throughout the presentation, we will talk about how you can embed certain videos and images and even full websites and apps into Schoology itself.
Right, and so there is our little overview. And now we are going to go ahead and get started into all the little details of Schoology. So we'll start first with organization and structure. So these are the things that we'll be talking about. So at a glance, this is one of my course pages looks like. You can see that there is a weekly schedule that is color-coded, and these color-coding color-coding schedules match the folders of the day so students know where to click. Another thing is that, oh, that's it. Here's the next one. So this is just a zoom of the weekly schedule. You can see all the times that students are supposed to be at what place. And then a UDL is Universal Design
for Learning
icon. So that is the icon for independent work. Here is just an example from when we were piloting Schoology during summer school programming. This is a table that you can create straight in Schoology in Pages, and we'll get more into that in a minute. But you can hyperlink assignments for students and just kind of have a summary of their week so that there's one place that they can go so they know where they need to be.
Cool. And there are also these, so in Ann Arbor Public Schools, we had piloted one structure that we encouraged everyone from pre-K through 12th grade to use. And in doing that, we also encouraged people to have the resources in Schoology help folder. And so with our UDL, our Universal Design for Learning, color coding and symbols, everything in orange became that Schoology help and resources thing. So anything now, even now, when I see something orange, I'm like, oh, help, I need that. And we also are able to archive all of our things into past weeks so that our main page, and when we talk about user experience, we want our main page to stay streamlined and simple. And by archiving current week or past weeks, we're able to keep it as simple as possible.
And when you create folders in Schoology, you have an array of color options, which always makes me very happy. Another useful thing to do, we hope best practices would be at least building wide, is to create common course icons so that students can navigate through their courses more seamlessly. These templates were created by a dear friend of mine, Sarah Suhanik, and that is her Twitter handle there if you want to chat her up. So here's our summary. Just keep it clear, consistent, and not cluttered for your students. Students already have a hard enough time not seeing their friends, and to add to their frustration with a hard to look at course page, we need to do what we can on our end to make this as easy to use as possible. All right. All right, so now on to materials. So there are a variety of materials that are options that you have in Schoology. We're gonna discuss these ones in great detail.
And this is where majority of the actual slides come from, but it'll be great.
Yes. So pages are a way that you can house your lesson slides. You can put your instructions in there and embed tech tools. There are a lot of different options. In your copy of the slides, there will be more directions on how to do specific things. We just won't present them. We just want to make sure that we cover all the features so you know of them, and then do the learning on your own.
So I use pages usually on asynchronous work days where I post, here are your learning objectives, here's your agenda, all the stuff that you need, and then anything else that follows. And you can see here that I was able to embed a Google Slides presentation directly onto the page. You can also embed other things like videos and images, which you will see on this next slide. Here, it also allows you to have specific kinds of headers. So I didn't format this at all. All I did was press, this is a title, and then it created that line and made it pretty like that. The pictures make it easy so that kids don't have to flip back and forth between here is Schoology, here's a slides presentation, and here's this third website where I'm actually doing my flowcharts. Everything can stay on one page so that they can do a split screen. And that makes it super helpful for them. That's one of the big benefits of embedding.
Yeah, so in segueing into embedding, you can embed any Google app. You first have to download the Google Drive resource app, which can be found in the App Center located on the top bar of Schoology. Inside this, there are like what seems like tons and endless amounts of apps that you may be familiar with that are all related to ed tech. So again, you can hyperlink things straight into your pages. You can embed YouTube videos so that students don't have to open a new link. It'll just all be right there for them. So to summarize, embedding really helps students stay on one page. Everything stays localized. Consider the size when you're embedding items, so you can work to change those sides or sizes in those hidden slides. You'll see more details there, and then maybe explore and practice with new apps that are available that handshake well with Schoology.
Yeah.
All right, so now moving on to discussions.
Cool. All right, I love discussions. I use discussions all the time. And I noticed in the Mentimeter, a lot of you guys were concerned about group work and discussions and having these meaningful conversations that might be missing in school. This is a screenshot directly from one of my courses where we talked about goal setting in my class. And just, oopsies, I don't know what I'm clicking on right now. Just really quickly, when you are setting it up, you can easily have it be, you can easily set it up just like a page. So anything that you can embed on a page, you can also embed on a discussion. So all of your apps that you have connected are still there. You can still upload an image, a link, and have like math
Equations, yeah.
That's the word. Equations and stuff on here. You can also attach files, import from resources, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Another great thing, I know that with a lot of classes, the discussion parts are graded. You can do that still on Schoology if you click on the Enable Grading button. When you do that, you can grade independent responses. directly on it. So if a kid replies to the discussion, then you can easily just pop a grade in there, write your comment, and then submit it. And you can allow the student to see it. Other kids can't see each other's discussion grades for privacy reasons, which is nice. Another thing that I actually had to learn about the hard way was that you are able to turn on this feature that prevents students from seeing each other's responses before replying. Just the other day, I had a discussion up and I got an email from a student that said, hey, someone had copied word for word my thing. But if you toggle this button right here, it makes sure that students are only seeing responses after they submit their own, which is very helpful. Another great thing about discussions is that you can have multiple means of expression. So not only can students just type their answers, but they can also record their voice or their video, and then it attaches as a file. Or they can upload a picture, upload a separate file if they're using Microsoft products. Or because I teach computer science, I would love to see their actual code. So they can upload their programs through that. So for students that have trouble with typing, this is a really great way for them to respond still. Students can also reply to each other. They can like each other's posts. So this was one of the community building posts that we had, and we were modeling how to respond in a positive way to each other. So, did you have anything to add?
Nope, you pretty much covered it. I think the only thing is, especially for younger learners, that being able to speak to each other and to hear each other's voices adds one more level of socialization. So you can teach your students how to use that function, and then it'll be easier for them instead of, kindergartners typing. I can't even imagine what that might be like for them.
Yeah. So key ideas, you can embed things. It can be graded. You can prevent cheating very easily, and it allows for kids to express themselves in a number of different ways. Very similar to discussions, I use in my actual classroom, being a Project Lead the Way teacher, our students are constantly building and constantly creating things with their hands. And to present all of those projects, we would usually use a gallery walk. But we don't have gallery walks online. Instead, we can use the media albums feature. Students can participate in virtual gallery walks. I use this all the time because I think it's great being able to see what they're actually working on. And it's very, very simple. You can set it up and you can allow for students to comment on each other's projects. You can have it so that students, only teachers can upload, or teachers and students can upload, and it populates like this. When they upload, come on. When they upload an image, there are a couple of ways that you can interact with it. You can download the image, you can comment on it. Students can tag each other. So if they were working on something with each other, they were able to tag each other on it. And then as the teacher, you're able to mass edit all submissions so that if a student forgot to put their name on it, they could write, we as teachers can write their names on it. Or if we want to mass delete some, we can do that too. So media albums are really great. We give a lot of sentence starters for students to interact with each other's things. The unfortunate thing, though, is that you can't directly grade from a media album, but there are a few ways to work around that. But it is great for gallery walks. Students can also upload videos. And as I said earlier, I was teaching computer science, and I had students screen record their code and then upload it and talk to me about their thinking through it. So that's how I spent my Sunday, and it was wonderful.
Cool. All right, so moving on to assignments. Assignments are very similar again to pages, discussions, where the rich text editor is there. Another feature is that you can connect a Google Drive app, and we'll get into all of these details. So I'll let you talk about this one.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of times, so before we transitioned to Schoology, we were very much deep into Google Classroom. And there were a few ways that you could reply to an assignment. One of the ways was attaching a Google Drive assignment, which Veronica will talk about later. But if you don't want to attach just a Google Drive document onto it, you can have students submit an assignment. I like to call it the old-fashioned way, but that's not actually what it is. So there, again, once you click the Submit Assignment button, there are 3 options that you can do. The first is to add a file or record a video or audio file. So for the younger learners who might want to draw or speak or do a video, that might be the better option for you. The next one is to create. So it has all of the same functionality that a page has. You can add external tools, documents, videos, anything. I had a student create a YouTube video and upload it, and that was cool. Or the last way is to submit through resources. Resources is something that we'll talk about at, will we have another? No. Okay, resources is a really handy tool that Schoology offers. And it is, if you have questions about it, or portfolios too, I mentioned, you can always email one of us afterwards. But resources is another great way that students can upload their presentations.
It's essentially like their whole binder, right? They can compile all the things that they've done. And then if you wanted to have a culminating activity at the end of a unit or the end of a semester, what have you, you can have the students take the things that they've already done and just pull it from their resources so that it's easy to access.
Cool. And so when students do submit through, I keep forgetting to press the button. When students do submit through Schoology without adding a document, it's very easy for you to grade. Here's the student name. You can click that and then go through all the students. It tells you how many revisions they've submitted. So the student turned in two different submissions, so it showed me when. And then if they submitted multiple images, it would show up there. And I could directly grade from there. Leave a comment and make that comment visible to the students for their grade books. Oops.
There we go.
Okay, there we are. And you could also leave audio or video feedback. Similarly, you can draw on what they submitted, and you can leave comments directly on any images that they created as well.
So as promised, you can connect your assignments to Google Drive, either your app or your documents or slides or spreadsheets, whatever you'd like. And in a way, it's like a virtual worksheet. So here's what a student could see. This was from the summer where both my co-teacher and I, when we had co-teachers, we both lost connection in our class. And so in order for students to do this work, they needed a few more examples. So I created a video and I just embedded it right there so they could view that video in the same place that they were going to use it to do the assignment. So the way you can do this, again, you just go, you go to Assign from Google Drive Assignments. The one thing to note is that this separate window, this Google search that comes up of your entire drive, is not the most robust tool. There's no kind of algorithm for how it's organized. It's not the most recent, it's not alphabetical. You just kind of have to know what the title of your document is so that you can quickly put it in the search bar and find it. Additionally, when you do this, it will automatically create a copy for your students. So I don't know if you've had the experience of forgetting to click that button in Google Classroom and having the flood of emails after. This will eliminate that. And again, with similarly to Google Classroom, it will attach the student's name to the document so that you can grade them and you will know whose assignment goes to who. So when you are grading it, you can look at students' progress. So if a student has opened the document, their copy of the document will show in this grading window. You can also, if a student doesn't open the document, it will say that, and that will notify you to reach out to that student. Hey, are you having trouble finding how to do this assignment? When students do submit, it turns off or it makes adjustments to the share settings on the Google document. So what will happen is they can no longer edit the document, but they can make comments. So this is so that once students submit their work, they're not making last minute changes afterwards. And anything they do, you can track. And so you can go ahead and grade straight in this window, and that'll populate to the grade book, and it's just a nice time-saving feature here. Additionally, I like to provide feedback straight into this. So similarly, like how Anna was talking about with the creation in assignments, creating your own assignment, I just had a conversation with the student about like, hey, how do you do this? And you could see that the student had crossed off what I had said and said, all right, I know how to do this now. So it's just like a nice way to interact with your students without having to schedule a meeting and get on a one-on-one Zoom call. Another thing that you can do is create assignments with hyperlinks to external tools. So with math and science, but especially math, there's a lot of third-party sites that we use. And so if we want to add like a quizzes or a Quizlet assignment, we can do that here. And instead of an alternative to embedding the tool straight into Schoology, because sometimes that doesn't work, I like to hyperlink it in, and then I have students send me a screenshot so that I don't have to then go back to the third-party site. It keeps my feedback loop pretty small, and this is an idea that I stole from Stefan Hogan, actually. And it's a great time-saving tool. If a student score is low, then you can go back into that third-party site and investigate further. In your copy, there are 3 little icons that are hyperlinked to YouTube videos that you can share with your students on how to do a screenshot on whatever device, Mac, PC, or Chromebook. And so another thing that you need to make sure if you do assign this assignment this way is to highlight the submissions enabled button. If that is not up, then if that's not selected, then students won't be able to submit that screenshot, and then you'll get that flood of emails. So this is what I was talking about, those icons that you can share with your students. Another great tool with assignments is that you can align to specific learning objectives. So there are preloaded ones already, like the NGSS or Common Core. They don't seem like there's weird dates on them, like the NGSS says 2013, but when you investigate, they are still up to date. You can also add custom learning objectives. So you can do that by clicking on this, and it will populate any that you have created. But to create your own objectives, you would have to go to the resources tab and click this add that has a nice little target icon next to it. And you can add your own specific learning targets or objectives for each assignment. So to summarize, making sure that your assignments are addressing different modes of expression. You can link to Google, scaffold tasks, and hyperlink things so it's easy for your students, align to standardized or custom learning objectives. And the best thing about assignments is that they all sync to the Schoology gradebook. So we will talk more about the gradebook in a bit, but you are able to sync them. So no need to like make the assignment column again. It kind of
it does it automatically.
Yes. All right, you want to do this?
Oh yeah. Okay. So assessments. Assessments are fun. We all love assessing our students. Assessments are an easy way to do formative and summative checks for understanding. And like what Veronica was just saying, it auto-populates straight into gradebook. So you can have a ton of different question types, and we will talk about that in a second.
So one thing to note is this green puzzle piece that says add test or quiz. So in the Schoology trainings that we have attended, in the summer, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
We have been told from Schoology representatives that this is being phased out, this specific feature. I'm seeing one thing in the chat that says, is there a place to give feedback per question? We'll get to that, I promise. The short answer is no.
We have feelings.
And we have many feelings about it. All right, so here's what the setup page looks like. There are 2 different setup windows. This is when you're creating the assessment. And again, you can do lots of different things in here. Making sure your submissions are enabled is very important. Otherwise, your students won't be able to open. Assigning grading categories that are linked to your Schoology gradebook. And if your district has PowerSchool, there's a potential to link to your SIS, which is what that is. You can also go ahead and modify any grading scale. So if you're using a assessment literacy scale or a standards-based scale, whatever scale that you are using in your school, you can add that scale and then select it in this drop-down menu. So here's what this second setup window will look like when you're actually in the assessment. So some features that I'd like to point out. The assessment toolbar has tools like a ruler or a protractor, 2 different types of calculators, things like this to help students while they are taking whatever assessment. And just know that assessment doesn't mean it has to be a test or a quiz. I've regularly assigned assessment type materials as assignments, as formative things. The other thing with the viewing results, there's options to have students be able to view their results, yes, no, or yes with correct answers. The feedback that I'm getting from my students is that it's really, really hard to see what they've done and what the correct answer is. So this is something that we are still learning and working through. And this goes back to Dana's question from the chat, which was, there is actually no place to put feedback per question, which is something that I'm struggling with so that my students can get that informative feedback. The way that I'm trying to address it is I'm creating a summary answer key with worked out, you know, just like handwriting it, uploading it into the interwebs and sharing that with them. Unfortunately, there's no other way to do it at this time. So here are the different question types that you can use. I will mention the highlight image option has been frequently used as a way for students to draw out their work, and it is incredibly tedious for students to do, as well as incredibly tedious for teachers to grade. You have to actually watch them draw them out one by one. And so using the highlight image question type, just be careful. You can always use the file upload if you want to see a student's work. All right, so the question setup here is an example question that we've had. So you can give possible responses, you can add or take away as many as you'd like, and then you can set up what the correct answer should look like. You can also adjust what percentage this correct answer will be, so you can add different examples for partial credit. Additionally, if you want duplicate responses for multiple choice, there's multiple responses as well. So instead of selecting the best answer, selecting all that apply. The penalty score is something that I have very strong feelings about. This would take away points from students if they get things wrong. I never use this. I don't think it's nice to use it. You do you, but like, you know.
It reminds me of the SAT.
Right.
It used to dock points.
Right. And
they took that out. So
yeah. So it's there, but like I never use it. Another thing, this is the only way to add learning objectives to your assessments is by the question. Unfortunately, there is no way to add a rubric that's built with learning objectives straight onto a whole assessment. You have to go question by question. So these are the obstacles that we've discovered in the last few weeks of using Schoology. All right, so when you're grading assessments, this part is nice. You can have these different tabs. So you can look at your questions. When you're grading, you have the option to grade by student, which allows you to see what the student did and a lot more details about what times they took, when they opened it. You can also grade by question. So this will tell you, so these are short answer questions and they need to be hand graded. So I have to go in there and grade them. Those get populated to the top and the auto graded ones are at the bottom. And then there are metrics here at the bottom about the average score. So these are 2 different views to grade your assessments all in one window. And again, it syncs to your gradebook. The reporting tab is a little bit longing for me. This is a nice little summary about the range of the scores, but when you scroll down on this page, all you will really see is the overview of all the scores and their percentages. It's not really much more than that. And the final feature of assessments that is very, very critical is the preview feature. I feel like every ed tech product needs to have the what does this look like for a student feature. And so this allows you to do that without saving your answers. So to summarize, there's lots of different question types that you can use to measure a student's understanding in different ways. There's a little bit of a tricky learning objective alignment. When you're grading, all things happen in one window, and the preview feature will help you teach students how to navigate through these things.
Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about conferences, gradebook, and attendance. So these are what we consider to be essential class functions, so things that make sure that class is actually run. One thing that, so we mentioned earlier that we have feelings about some of these things. This is one of the things that when we were first told that we were switching to Schoology, anyone that was teaching over the summer was told that we were going to be using BigBlueButton. BigBlueButton is a Schoology conferencing feature that's built into Schoology. I keep saying that it's embedded, and that's kind of true, but kind of not true. And I'll talk about what that means later. But BigBlueButton, when we were first told that this was what we were going to use, we were both pretty frustrated because we were already, you know, we were fluent in Google Meet. We knew a lot about Zoom already. Our students didn't, but we thought, like, why do we have to teach them another thing? But as the summer went on, we actually both kind of enjoyed it more. And I actually really like it, but I use Zoom anyway. But I have feelings. Anyway, so what is BigBlueButton? BigBlueButton is a video conferencing tool embedded within Schoology. Here's a screenshot that I will talk about later on. And just to preface this, I have led PD sessions only on BigBlueButton that last an hour. So I could go on forever about this, but I won't. So you're welcome. So really quickly, the anatomy of a BigBlueButton page. This is all on one screen. So you can have your presentation, you can control your presentation and all of those fun features on one page. So let's break it down. First, you have the presentation portion, which you can upload as a PDF. And again, I said I could go on for a full hour about this, so I'm gonna move through this pretty quickly and being conscious of time. You can also see all of your students who have their cameras on will show up at the top. On the very, very top, anyone whose name is lit up are the ones who are talking. If your name is along the side, that means they're unmuted. So even if their cameras are off, their name will light up when they're talking. Oops. Okay. Every participant in the BigBlueButton session will be listed on the side. There is a public chat, but different from Zoom, they will pop up with a private chat with a person's name, so there's no chance of you mixing up the public chat from a private chat, which is a great feature, which I wish Zoom had. They have a shared notes section, so if you're working in a group, you can keep your shared notes all in one place, separate from the chat, and I'll talk about that later on too. All of the buttons at the bottom, the mute, unmute, audio on, off, camera on, off, and share screen are right there. Earlier I said that this would be uploaded as a PDF because when you share screen, a lot of the cool features are taken away. On the side is the whiteboard feature that works with PDFs, but not screen sharing. And then at the bottom, this is the one that I call the BigBlueButton. This is where all of your controls will be for starting a poll. You can upload your presentations or share an external video without having to pop out to a new tab. I know for Zoom, if you ever want to start a poll, you have to click on a button, it opens it in a browser, and then it's a whole bunch of hoops to jump through. Whereas this, you can do it right then. Usually whenever I teach with BigBlueButton, I do a BigBlueButton scavenger hunt, and one of the main features that I go over is how to set your status. You can see that there are a lot of statuses. They don't have to do any extra clicking. It's just set your status, and there it is. Cool. There are a lot of cool features that Schoology Conferences uses also. They have breakout rooms. Some of the highlights are that the last thing that they see in the main session is the only thing that they see in the breakout room session. The first person that gets there gets full privileges that the teacher has, but you can't preload the breakout rooms like you can in Zoom. And another cool thing is that you can turn on listening for every single room. So if you have 3 breakout rooms happening, you can listen in on all 3. It gets a little bit hectic, but it's kind of cool. Like I mentioned earlier, polls are really, really straightforward. I always do would you rathers, and when I set it up, I just click start a poll, and then it can auto-populate it. So if on my screen I have A or B, here I could just choose the AB function, or the AB option. So polls are super easy. You can make sure that kids are engaging in it in different ways, do checks for understandings, games, you can check for attendance, and we'll talk about analytics in a little bit. Like I said earlier, shared notes are different from the public chat because the shared notes can be organized, whereas public chat is just a stream of comments. And then the whiteboard feature. The whiteboard feature works with PDFs, and it's super easy to turn on to multiple users or turn it off and just be a single user. So I used to teach algebra, and I wish that we had this for algebra when I taught it. And to get to conferences is really easy. From your course page, you just go down on the side, you click a new conference, and then you start it like that.
Just one comment that I want to amplify about conferences. This is a feature that your district needs to have turned on in order to access it. So if you do have it turned on, this is what it's useful for.
It's super useful. And when you record it, you can go into completed. So there's active and completed, and you can play the recording, and any of the statistics and recordings are found here. You can also, and Veronica actually taught me this, when you have a recording, you can just hyperlink it straight into a page, which makes it really, really convenient. When you do have it open in a link or in a separate tab, you can watch the presentation happening, as well as what all the participants are doing, as well as how the chat populates live. So if you're talking and then someone types in the chat right at that time, that's what will happen in the video, which is pretty cool, I think. Whoopsies. You can look at other statistics too. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you open up the statistics slide, here's a screenshot of what that might look like. All of the, this is the overview tab of how many people were there, how long they stayed, and those kinds of details. You can also look at the attention tab, which lets you look at anything, anytime your students were speaking or using the reactions or emojis there. To toggle between these tabs, it's not very intuitive, but you just need to click on overview, attention, or polling on top. To get to looking at the polling, you can see which students answered which polls with what answer. So you can look directly on there. The overview on top, will let you see how many of your participants answered the poll questions. So as a summary, BigBlueButton, if your district has it, is very, very useful. It's easy to manage all within Schoology. It's not one more licensing that you have to get through like Zoom, and we've had many Zoom issues with privacy and things.
Yeah.
And so if your district doesn't have this, I would definitely advocate with how robust this feature is. It's a lot less bandwidth going from and to your computer and your students' devices. So these are some things that you can hopefully share with whoever makes these decisions in your district.
Yeah, it's also a very secure link.
Mm-hmm. Yep, only members of the Schoology page can access that specific live conference. All right, so moving into the gradebook, this is just an overview of what it may look like. There are lots of things to look, and sometimes you have to hover over them. So I'm going to go kind of quickly because we are
timed.
But this button here is a robust reporting button. If you do this, you will see grade reports for students broken down by assignment. You can look at different categories specifically. when you look at materials, sometimes you'll have materials on, and depending on if you want to see just the assessments or just the assignments. If you have no category listed in your specific material, it'll all go in the ungraded category. In this view, you can highlight all the cells that are marked with what they're marked with. And the nice one is the needs grading feature, because I always need reminders of what else I need to do. Now, zooming in on this button clears any overrides that you have put in. So if you put in a score for a student, but you want to clear their override, you have to hover to that bottom left corner to find it. The top corner will either show this puzzle icon, which is tied to assessments, or the paper icon that's tied to assignments. Any submissions that they have, if you click on those icons, it will open up their submission. So from the gradebook, you can just open. So if there's an empty cell and you need to grade something, you can just click there and won't have to navigate to that specific assignment. Again, in the bottom left corner, there are these flags that allow you to mark with an exception. So something to note about missing: if you mark a score as missing, it'll auto-populate that box as a 0. And it'll also take it off the student's to-do list in their course page. Yeah, so any assignments for that specific course populate on the right side. And so that marking it at a 0 marks it almost as completed, but as a 0. So I typically use incomplete and add a comment. And to add a comment, you have to hover over this bottom right corner, and you can add a comment straight into there and have the option to display to the student or not. And this is what it would look like. This feature is nice if you want to add assignments to the gradebook. So these are the types of materials that you can add straight from the gradebook. You notice that assessments aren't there. I don't know why. I think assessments is because it's a newer feature of Schoology.
And for media albums, if you want to grade like a gallery walk, add grade column is what I did.
Yes, so then it won't be tied to a new material type. Bulk edit is something that I learned that changed my life. We had a moment where all of the grading periods in Schoology were during an update got erased. And so I had to manually update all of the grading periods for my assignments. You can do that all in one place here by using the bulk edit feature. And then the 3 dots in the corner of each cell for the assignment title lets you edit the assignment right in there, and then do some like quick filling of the columns. So some summary for gradebook is that it's really, really localized, and I'm just gonna keep trucking along. So in attendance, this is what your attendance will look like. It's pretty standard. One nice feature is that your summary for each student can populate here. And again, that little bar graph will populate you to this page where you can see their attendance, what day specifically, and any comments that you might have added. Just a side note, I added some really intense comments here because we were tracking the usage and engagement of this platform while we were piloting it. So attendance is just pretty much the same. All right.
Sorry.
We're going really, really quick.
Communication, we're sprinting.
Yep.
Alrighty. So there are many different ways that you can communicate with the students as well as parents through Schoology. One quick way, whoopsies, is through updates. Anytime I get kicked off of a course, I immediately type in updates saying, hey guys, I got kicked off. I'm so sorry. I will get on as soon as I can. So updates is kind of cool because you can set polls.
Yes, so you can engage with your students in ways that are not tied to anything academic or grades, just getting to know them more. Messages. So if you click on the envelope on that top bar of Schoology, you can send a message to students. There's also a way to do this under the course icon of the course page. There is a drop-down menu that says send a message to your entire, to all of your members. If you do that, it will create a separate email for each student. So it seems like to the student's perspective that you are sending them an individual email. So if you're sending a mass message, updates are more appropriate for that. If you'd like to send a message to a small group of students, you can use that feature, individually select the students that you would like to add, and then that'll be like essentially like blind copying someone on an email. And this is how you can do it. So anyone populated in your network, their names will be there and you can just type them in. Our very last thing that we're going to talk about is parent access code. So when you go to the members tab on the left menu, you will be able to see the access codes on the back. So to make sure that your students, grown-ups, have access to Schoology, you can download these access codes and share them out. The access codes are specific to the student and not to the course. So if you send one to one of your students, that grown-up can see all of the courses that that student is associated with.
But if a parent has multiple children, they'll have multiple access codes.
Yes. So per student. Now, finally, we are at the end.
We made it.
We made it. We want
Yay.
to be respectful of your time. As a young teacher who's always going to webinars, something that I always find that I want is a place to put all my thoughts. So I've created this post-webinar checklist for you. The link is in the chat now. You can download a copy of this, and there's, just to talk through it really quickly, there's a place where all the learning targets for what we covered, which was a lot, they're hyperlinked, and the slide numbers are there for the slides. You can also reflect. There's 6 reflection questions on how to take all of this stuff and use it in your own teaching. And if you have any further questions, we love to answer anything. You can tweet at us.
We love Twitter.
Yeah, I'm kind of new to Twitter, but I'm liking it there so far. Alrighty, and then this brings us to our exit ticket. So the exit ticket is in the chat box. Thank you, Chris. Again, the recording will be there. Hopefully you can slow it down, because I know we were talking at light speed at the very end, but we want to remain respectful of your time on this very, very long Monday of this week.
It is Monday.
Yes. Some of these links are not the most updated, but yes, the ones that have been in the chat are the ones that you should use. So there we go. Yeah. So Anna just put that in there. Cool. And if there are any questions, I know there's a closing that needs to happen from someone that's not me.
Or me. Goodness.
Well, you have, hi again, everybody. I'm Eric Brown, a biology teacher in Evanston, Illinois, and a member of the NEA Executive Committee. And let me just tell you, I just got schooled. On Schoology, I learned so much. Teaching, we know, is a learning experience, and learning is a teaching experience. So some of the stuff that I took away from this session, consistent formatting and color coding across a school or a grade level, actually will assist students with quick identification of things that they need. I mean, who doesn't need stuff like color coded for themselves? Organized, it's so much better that way. Embedding to prevent the need to transfer from window to window or tab to tab. I think that's really important. The various modes that students have available for responses and for working collaboratively. And then, ooh, yes, I just love to ear hustle. And if you don't know what that is, that's dropping eaves. But I like ear hustling on 3 breakout groups at a time. That's something you can't do on Zoom. I can't, hear them all at the same time. I have to jump from one to the other to the other. So I do appreciate learning so much, but what I appreciate most is that I just engaged in a high quality professional learning webinar. One that was provided to me by NEA siblings, Veronica Che and Anna Gonzalez. That's right, I say siblings because in the olden days, we would say union brothers and sisters, but we know that that isn't as inclusive as it should be. So I say siblings. And as we all know, the best professional development is usually provided by our colleagues. So thank you, Veronica and Anna, for sharing your expertise with all of us. And thank you, NEA, for bringing us all together for this session, Leveling Up with Schoology. We truly are stronger and smarter when we are united. For more webinars, tools, and resources, please visit educatingthroughcrisis.org. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and stay safe.
So thanks, Eric. I just want to remind everybody that give us till Thursday or so to get this uploaded. You can find this at nea.org/webinars. You can get the link to get the recording, all the materials, get the PowerPoint, and print out a certificate if you want to present that to your district to see if you can get, we called it seat hours when I was teaching. Not sure what they call it in Michigan, but that's what we call it. And then I also want to invite you to join us on November 9th for our next webinar, which is on social emotional learning in the digital spaces. So Veronica and Anna have said they'll stick around for 10 or 15 more minutes. If you have questions, you can post them in the chat because they now can look at the chat because they're not talking, or put them in the Q&A as well. And so we'll hang out for a little bit to see if there are things that folks want to talk about.
Yep, we're also hosting the SCL one, which is going to be a lot slower and way more about our feelings, which
Yeah.
we are super passionate about.
That one's our favorite. At least it's my favorite.
Thank you so much for attending.
Yeah. Have a great
that will be on November 9th.
Monday,
yeah.
November 9th. Yeah.
Would you use
Why?
anything besides? Great question. For me, I'm using Zoom because that's what we on-ramped our students with. And so to keep it consistent for them, I'm kind of just hanging with it.
And yeah, because when I think about it, anytime we introduce another video conferencing tool, it's essentially teaching them a whole other language, right? They're literally code switching between classes. And if we're talking about equity and access, I don't feel like that's very equitable.
Right. Keeping things. The plus side is, though, in terms of internet availability, Zoom kind of sucks your bandwidth and BigBlueButton doesn't. So if you have any say in what your building or district is moving forward with, BigBlueButton is probably the way to go. It's way simpler for educators to use as well. And
there's less floating things happening on your screen.
Right. All of the menus are locked to the screen.
Yeah.
There's a question about, do you use standards-based referencing or grading? In my building, we use a lot of assessment literacy. I worked in an IB high school that Anna's middle school feeds into. So there's also elements of the criterion grading there. But in terms of the grading, creating your own rubrics is probably the most key thing. Going into resources and doing that is the way to start that process so that you can align things with your custom learning objectives, or if you want to just tie them straight to the standardized state standards, you can do that as well. Oops. How long did it take for you to feel comfortable with the software? So it's important to note that Anna and I both taught summer school. Well, Anna built a curriculum for summer school. Let's get that out there first. But I taught, a month, 5 weeks in the summer. And then when we were starting this, using Schoology during the school year, a lot of learning happens in the moment. I learned new things yesterday about Schoology. And so
I learned things right now.
Right. And Schoology is super, super powerful. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword there, where on one side it's very powerful, on the other side there's a lot of things to learn. So just balancing those things and just exploring, that's what the sandbox is very, very useful for.
And a lot of it is very intuitive and a lot of it is very counterintuitive. So just even things as simply as if you add a link in one thing, the actual hyperlink box is at the top and then the title is underneath, but if you click on a different thing, it switches. And that's,
right.
you wouldn't think that that'd be frustrating, but it's
right.
a thing.
Sometimes the text formatting in the rich text editor is frustrating when you center things and not quite centered. Formatting for me is it's something I obsess with. But yes, I'm reading this very long. I will say, and again, we are not Schoology reps. We are talking about Schoology in practice and how we use it. And something to keep in mind is that, like, this is what our district decided to move forward with. And so,
And they told us in May or June.
right. And so we just try to do our best to learn all the things that we could. If your district is moving forward with Schoology, hopefully this webinar gave you some tangible things to take, advocating for BigBlueButton. There's also options for mastery, which allows you to, with standards-based grading, very, very important if that's what you're doing in your building or your district. That's another feature that you have to like purchase, I think, through the licensing. So.
And there's something else I was going to say, but I lost it for a second.
Oh, is it Tamara or is it Tamara?
Or tomorrow.
Or tomorrow. I'm reading your comment. Yes, that is interesting is a good way to put it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's got a lot of pros and a lot of cons, and we just we both learn by doing. So we have tried a lot of things, done the long way to do something, found shortcuts, told each other, and like that's how we've been learning, which is why it's been really manageable, I think, for myself, to just have like a partner who doesn't work at the same school or like teach the same subject. It's just really helpful to like bounce ideas off of each other.
It normally looks like, hey, Anna, did you know? And then, we shout across our apartment. So, I mean, this has been really nice and funny. Yeah, find your people. Twitter is a great place to share things. I've learned so many things from being on Twitter. Our educator community is willing to share and willing to collaborate. And if you live with your people, if you put something out into the world, that if one person learns it, right? This is like with your students, if one person learns it, like that was worth the effort of doing it. And so share what you know and learn from each other. And if you're frustrated, Schoology's forum, right?
People are very frustrated.
Schoology's forum is actually pretty robust. And going through all of those things has helped me. Having a person be a mock student in your course is also very useful. There is a way.
That's how we got half these screenshots.
Right. There is a way to view the course as a student, but it's not always consistent in how it works.
Like it doesn't have a submit button or feedback.
Yes.
But Schoology is not as bad as we thought it would be.
Yes. When
I love that. It wasn't as bad as we thought it could be.
Right.
You just have to marinate it and marinate in it for a little bit, and then you're like, okay, I guess it's okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming. I hope you learned something.
Yeah. I do too. I learned something. I joke, but.
All right. Well, it looks like you have gotten everything. And so final thank you to our panelists. Good night, everyone. Get a good night's sleep for whatever comes to you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So good night.
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 Night, Eric. That's fun. Thanks for coming.
Thanks,
and helping.
Stefan's wearing too much maize and blue.
He's wrestling really hard.
I love it. Ellen.
I don't know. Where's the green? I thought there was like this other school in Michigan.
Yeah.
There is a school with green in Michigan too. Yeah, but we don't want to do that tonight. Let's just marinate in the amazingness of Veronica and Anna.
I didn't know you went to state.
I'm Michigan State by marriage too. So
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm Michigan State by blood and also some $20,000. So.
Well, if we're going that route, I'm Mason Blue by a lot.
My dad played in the marching band, so.